Meanwhile, on Nefarious space station...
procedure will require approximately 183 paradoxes. 84 if the blog participate.
Oh, please,
Blah.
don't let the Blark participate.
Before testing the machine.
What's the matter, Lawrence? Chicken?
He tried.
Butterfingers.
Yeah, sure.
The law masters have destroyed the VX-99. Our sentries are searching for their vessel's signature as we speak.
Unacceptable! I practically handed those squishies to you on a silver platter. How could you be so utterly incompetent?
I'll leave you two alone.
Yeah, Lawrence understands it's time to knock the fuck out.
Be ruined! Your body will remain crushed and abandoned on Zorik. Is that what you want? I'm bringing in specialists.
Alright, remember the Helga, the trainer from the first three games? Yeah, apparently there are more hover species, the Valkyries, as they're called.
Decades ago, your colony was atomized in the Erebus supernova. How would you like to have it back?
How
It's
manipulative.
interesting. Not only were they robots, apparently they're a species of robots. Go figure.
But we'll have to wait until they strike, because now we need to get back to Clank inside the Great Clock for his next lesson.
Oh, yes. One hypersonic brainwave scrambler scrambled.
We will learn, I think, in this very part, but basically Sigmund is the kind of robot that loves to listening to the same jokes over and over. Again, not to a fault, he's just a very simple robot. Also, I have no idea. Okay, no, to be fair, yeah, we did mention in the prologue that the boxes with bolts were brought here by Nefarious, so that's the justification why they're here.
What do they say? Never put up today what you've already done yesterday.
But yeah, you may have noticed also from the beginning prologue that there are a couple of planetoids holograms scattered throughout. This particular section is there to tell you what these are for. After all, Clank's job inside the Great Clock is not just to go around and whack things with the chronoscepter.
This way, sir. This way, sir.
Oh yeah, there's something I also haven't mentioned yet. It's not applicable to this room, but... okay, stupid parasites. But one might have noticed it during the previous section inside the Great Clock. If you pay attention, not in all occasions, but in some occasions, one of the rooms like this that actually has a window, if you actually get close, in some occasion, you may notice Lawrence trying to spy on you. It's actually a kind of a blink and you miss moment, but it's a nice touch of it, showcases what's going on, which, to be fair, we had seen at the end of the previous section.
Sigmund, why am I not affected by altered time?
That's your quantum
Good
activator
question.
report. It provides temporal
There is
immunity
it's
for those of us
again
who
blink and you
detect
miss
time.
moment. But now basically we need to solve another one of those temporal recording puzzles.
It's a blink and you'll miss a moment, but again, it's one that's made a bit more frustrating with the fact that they don't just provide subtitles.
Yes, agreed. I was just replaying recently the first Dishonored, and that one actually gives you the option to choose between, you know, subtitles for just the quote-unquote important dialogue or all the time. I can understand why Arcane Studios might have, been indecisive on the matter, because a lot of times the dialogue can potentially overlap with each other, so it's not neither super optimal, but, you know, what can you do about it? Anyway...
That's like one of the few times where I'm okay with subtitles maybe not being included if somehow they hinder the gameplay.
Anyway, it's time for orientation.
Dun da da da! Orvus Industries presents The Great Clock and You, with your host,
Hooray!
Orvus!
Hello! And, oh, is it on? Sigmund?
Live.
Should be blinking?
Hold on,
Goodness
sir.
gracious.
Okay, try now.
Okay, yeah.
Hello, and welcome to the Great Clock. You're here because you've been selected to join our team. And we couldn't be happier to have you.
Yeah, just please don't try to unionize. This is basically the same corporate stock thing, but more important stuff at the end. Why the Great Clock exists. Ah, the fungoids.
Of time travel. We had hoped it would enrich their lives as it did ours, but unfortunately...
They loused it up!
Sigmund, let's just say they were overzealous in its use. After only 3,000 short years, the fungoids...
So basically the reason why the fungoids live in a primitive state with minimal technology is because of this. They were a
So
bit
basically...
they had a bit too hubris and they got punished for it.
That's it, we're taking away your Wi-Fi for the next 1,000 years.
Along with everything else.
Was at an end. If the universe was to survive, it would need a heart transplant. So, I designed a special gift to repair the damage. The Great Clock.
So yeah, the Great Clock, as Orvus said, is basically a pacemaker for the universe. It's a bit weird as a concept, but, you know, it works.
So basically, we have these dumbasses who kind of nearly wrecked all time, which is now being basically held together by the equivalent of medical duct tape.
Concerning the operation of the Great Clock. Number 1.
Sounds like another day in the Ratchet Clank universe.
To be used as a time machine. The clock is not meant to alter time, only to keep it. Number 2. Should you find yourself wanting to use the clock as a time machine, consult rule number 1.
The camera.
But what if I'm evil and don't want to follow the rules? Then what do I do?
Go to rule number 1.
Let's go have some tea.
Of course it's
Yeah, I'll go to rule number 1, sure.
Responsible for temporal stability across the universe.
I love it though, they just said, pretty, please don't use this time machine as a time machine.
And where is...
Well, first we need to get more another lesson from the Orvus program, but again, there's a couple of things I need to mention about the orientation that we just got. First of all, let me just knock a couple of things down.
I do like how even the mystical ancients in this game are silly wackadoodles.
Well, like I said, you can kind of tell the fact that I want to establish that Orvus is the true creator of Clank by giving him some more silly sense of humor qualities to him. You can tell, oh, he literally is Clank's father, you know, in a sense. Clank was created in the image, you know, of the zonies.
Hello, XJ0461. It's good to see you again. And now it's time for your most important lesson.
Now, whether I am actually the ghost of your father, or if I'm just something you see in your mind, either way...
in fact it was mentioned in the previous... If it's not wasn't mentioned in the previous lesson, it's done here. It's just a program that Clank has installed in it that uses Orvus as an avatar. Clank did specifically ask the question.
So it's basically like Jarrell in Man of Steel. He can say, oh, it's good to see you again, but it's not really him.
Alright, it's time for time manipulation, but, you know, in a sense of repairing damage rather than causing it, because despite the presence of the clock, there will be still anomalies throughout the universe. So here's where the Chronoscepter comes in. You need to actually project a beam, you know, where the anomalies are, to fix them. It's a neat kind of, you know, type of puzzle. So, check this.
On each anomaly. You're doing quite well.
And of course it just, becomes more in-depth from there. Also, if you noticed on the left, the cutscene from the first game.
Temporal ribbon impact in 3, 2, 1.
Go.
Go!
Is that easy to fix the problems with time, is
Of
it?
course, just point the stick at the hologram and fire the Baja Blast beam and you'll be good to go.
Just a few left.
Temporal ribbon impact.
And again, to be fair, they do introduce these new mechanics as it goes on to make it more challenging, and when it will come to the real thing, after this program is done, you'll be able to see how complex they can get and how more frantic, they can become. It's kind of like, reminds me more of, some minor components of RTSs, and some games around this time love to have this kind of mechanic of scanning or probing a globe, because Mass Effect 2 has an entire mechanic that is almost identical to this.
Are we in an Apple store?
Yeah, it's disgustingly white. Again,
So of course they're the good guys.
Even with me turning down the lighting, it's still very obnoxious.
That's the thing, Joe, but if Apple have that policy, they're very inconsistent about it. In the Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, Gary Oldman's character has an iPhone in there, and he's not exactly Holy Spirit.
But is he like the villain?
Yeah, that's the important part. It's not so much what you think on the matter, but what the movie wants you to think, no matter if they're right or not.
Like, let me put it like this. Apple's policy seems to be that anyone who is definitively the villain cannot use Apple tech, otherwise it makes them look bad. I forget if they extended that policy to media beyond movies, but it would not surprise me if they included that. But either way, though, Dwibs, was Gary Oldman's character like a full-on villain, or was he someone that's kind of like an anti-hero or anti-villain?
I'd argue he's just more of an ass.
Well, okay. In that case, then, it might be fair game as long as he's not the villain.
Besides, at that point, the world was in, humanity was in ruins at that point.
Okay, yeah, so probably fair game. I mean, mind you, it's still silly that Apple, despite a lot of very morally questionable stuff they did, really had to go out of their way to go, no, we can't look like the bad guys overall. Like, I'm just waiting for Apple to eventually do their equivalent of United Passions, where they try to do something that makes them look especially good, only to make themselves look...
Didn't we already get the Steve Jobs movie?
I don't recall that movie, at the very least, making them look super bad.
Again, I don't know. You guys commented on it.
I just recall it not being good. I don't recall specifically if it made Apple look bad, though.
Anyway, that's basically your job as a caretaker, basically. Defeat the monsters that are here, use the Chrono Scepter to either whack them or reflect their projectiles, and fix the anomalies, when they show up on the hologram. It's not a case where you need to race against time, in order to get from which to which. It's still very linear in how it's presented, so don't worry about that. It's just that, for the sake of, giving the extra volt. So let me use this time instead to talk about the orientation that we got, because it presents a couple of things that makes me wonder. So let's start with this. The Great Clock existing is the byproduct of the Zoni messing up by giving time travel to a species that abused it and caused almost the complete death of the universe. Okay, I get it. I'm with you so far. As a result of this, the Zoni decided to just use this only for keeping time and not using time travel technology unless it's inherently tied to the clock and for themselves, as showcased partially in Tools of Destruction, where Nefarious Manipulation, they gave Clank new powers and gave him visions that helped the plot going along, because otherwise him and Ratchet would have not known information on how to proceed. Okay, so why did they met with Captain Darkwater in the past? Just asking. Is it a case where it was before the creation of the Great Clock? It has to be, because, it's the only way I can think of why the Zoni would do it in such a casual manner. And you cannot tell me it was 4D chess manipulation, because it really was not going to help Clank as a result, nor it could have been a scheme from Nefarious, because the only thing that he did was give away his position to Ratchet, which he didn't wanted, so...
I will say this, we also have to keep into mind that the pirates were technically created by the antagonist from... by Tachyon.
So is extremely ignorant about the whole Great Clock situation, remember. He still believes Ratchet is the last Lombax in the universe, He was fixated on the Polaris Galaxy and tried to invade Kerwan only very briefly, so... Again, ignore me right now, I'm trying to get this gold ball before, the titanium ball before I can actually do so, ignore that. Go on, Joe.
So this means, though, that Tachyon created the pirates for his own goals, and somehow in between all of this, Darkwater made that deal with these guys regarding the Great Clock, which, mind you, sounds like a pretty damn ancient artifact.
The only thing that Darkwater got was the Fulcrum Star, which, again, remember, it's the propellant needed for powering up an Obsidian Eye, which in turn is the thing that allows to not communicate necessarily, but to visualize with what the Zonies are doing. Which,
True, but my point is more so the fact that, when you factor in the time lengths of which all of us would have had to go, that would mean that Tachyon somehow went completely unknowledgeable of a power that was much greater than what he was going after, despite the fact that his own workforce, the pirates, had a know-how in of it. Let's not forget, Rusty Pete's apparently very well in on the know-how, so that implies that, by all means, these other pirates knew about all this stuff, but just never brought that up. Admittedly, it might have been Tachyon's own fault for just abandoning and firing them, but this really does scream retcons that we didn't think of in the get-go, but we want to help make things bigger. Again, look. I'm aware that a lot of media is not going to be immune to retcons. Retcons are kind of just part of the name of the game. It's just, like I mentioned during Tools of Destruction, I do feel like there is a bit of a threshold to this kind of thing, to the point where, guys, we get it. You want to make things seem more epic, but maybe we were fine just leaving Ratchet and Clank as these normal guys who became heroes. I don't feel like the Ratchet and Clank original trilogy needed that super deep extra meaning to it. Okay, compare this to superhero comics, which have been running for incredibly long times. It makes sense to give retcons since, let's not beat around the bush, a lot of Golden Age and especially Silver Age stuff could be pretty silly to the point of being stupid. In which case, sometimes retcons helped make it make sense, essentially. Here, though, I don't know. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I feel like they were overdoing it. I don't hate it, mind you, and I don't think it does any particular damage. It just ironically makes things feel sillier with how overcomplicated it gets.
That's only one thing though, because I'm trying now to think of a bigger picture. Okay, so Clank was created by Orvus specifically to become his next successor. As we will know in a few parts from now, Orvus knows about the existence of Clank, but the reason why he's here is not because Orvus wanted, but because instead it was a nefarious scheme. So you're leading basically to think that Orvus thought that the time was not ready. But it begs the question why Clank, if Clank is so special in inheriting about the Great Clock, why was he put in positions of jeopardy multiple times throughout the series? I mean, before Tools of Destruction, you know. Sure, I guess you can argue that with hindsight, because, haha, time, you know, Orvus would know that Clank would succeed every single time, and thus will not truly be in danger up until this point. But I don't know.
Quantum restoration initiated. Temporal ribbon impact in 3, 2, 1.
The person who came up with that got really bored. Just wanted some fun.
I guess Orvus is the kind of guy that just thinks of relatively dad jokes and thinks they're absolute golden. That. But again, my point being, my suspension of disbelief makes me understand that these technically make sense in the grand scheme of things. The little things, the little small details, just don't add up in 100% probably the intended way the writing team wanted, you know. I'm still hanging fine. I still think this is actually the best plot of the Ratchet Clank games, in general. Yes, again, even better, technically better than Rift Apart. I know that Rift Apart is technically a bit of a step up over, for example, into the Nexus, but I think this still has a bit of an extra edge to it, you know.
Do you feel like Rift Apart maybe went a little too far in some regards?
Not
that it's bad, but
we will have to get there. It's mostly that you can kind of tell that it's the way the state the game is in is because of its trouble development cycle. And as I said a couple of times, Drova, it commits the it commits the action of not really moving the plot forward. You know, it's just a bit of a step.
So
it's a bit of a stepping stone.
Is it kind of like Crash 4 where you could tell they were also banking on the fact that there hadn't been a new Ratchet & Clank mainline game in ages too? Like, again, not really, to say that it was bad.
Not really, because they take advantage of the alternate dimension thing to basically have a gigantic set of callbacks to the entire franchise. So it's actually required when you know about this series instead of actually being fresh, which again boggles the mind to me even more about why it is the only Ratchet & Clank game available on PC right now. If Sony, again, is committed to the whole porting thing, why didn't they at the very least try to start from the beginning instead of just jumping at the very end point?
That's a good question.
That's a good question.
I mean, again, like I've said, I would argue there's technically not really a bad Ratchet & Clank game. There are some that are notably weaker than others, And okay, I don't know all the details of what was going on with Rift Apart, but I am aware that it did get to a point where the flipping main writer left. Now again, one could argue, well, isn't it mostly about the gameplay? No, I'd argue we're to a point where they were just as much concerned about the plot and how to get things going and every now and then. Losing someone...
Again, based on the construction that we have, and I use that term loosely because it's more of a shit show than anything, and I don't want to go too much into it, mainly also because we talked partially about it during Resistance 3. It was also a dispute over stuff like Rivet's designs.
I'm sure
this influenced also the plot as a whole, because, you know, like you said, with the main writer leaving away because of it, the script had to be rewritten, but according to, you know, witnesses about the matter from Insomniac, pretty much everyone else in the studio hated the original script anyway, so they were like, good riddance. But again, it's not a topic for today at the very least.
Recording initiated. Temporal recording initiated. Temporal recording initiated.
There you go.
Alright.
Again, this is where the puzzles involving the temporal recording starts becoming more and more challenging because of how intricate they become. You need to basically think outside the box a couple of times and thinking, you know, I need to go into this position, then this other position, then move on from there, you know. Again, it's pretty much just like a Layton puzzle, you know.
Hey, I know. I actually really dig these puzzles. It's a puzzle that you have pretty much complete control over, even to the point of basically timing how long you keep your copies here or there or whatnot. Which, of course, means you do need to think ahead on some things, but hey, all the more power to you in the intellect.
And again, because similar to the Layton games, also, you know, this is not stuff that you can just circumvent by just keeping if you get too frustrated. You still have to properly finish, you know. So there is technically that.
I guess one might argue some of these get a bit tedious, but I don't recall ever hating any of these puzzles.
There you go.
Now just wait for our little town buddies to do the trick. Thanks,
Again, I'm kind of used to puzzles like this because of games like the Talos Principle. So.
I feel like I played games like this, but I can't quite name them. Like, I picture them in my mind, but I just can't recall specific names for it.
Okay, not completely, but like I said, Braid also had something similar going to it, and you know, but you need to be careful about potentially leaving a compliment for Jonathan Blow because it might go over his head. I'm mostly joking because despite the ego, I still really like both Braid and the Witness at the end of the day. So.
I think the Dorkly skit covered it well. Braid's a good game, but it's not reinventing the wheel.
It came
like
out
some
at the
people
right
like to claim
time.
It
It
is.
was one of the pioneers of the indie movement, particularly the Western, you know, branch. And it came out right at the time where platformers, you know, with a more cartoony aesthetic, you know, were basically a dime a dozen instead. So were basically almost completely missing. So the indie panorama was thriving out of that. So
I wonder, how's the indie scene over in the East, specifically Japan?
mostly RPG Maker made stuff. That's how you know, some games like horror games actually got made over time. You know, like Mad Father and so on. But I forgot if Awful was also, but obviously there are also stuff like Human Icky, that was, you know, one of the pioneers. I don't remember if Mr. Pixel himself is Japanese, but if so, that's also Cave Story, you know, to go account, and that was truly one of the big pioneers of the indie games. It's more the case that, you know, while indie games still exist, it's not a case where the novelty has worn off because the indie games are still flourishing other than, you know, just existing. But the impact that they might have had over the early 2010 is just a bit diminished. They're still important because they do provide an alternative to big corporations, but right now their utility is more of the type of I don't like to play, you know, these games because you know, they're actually supporting this corporation who's doing these bad things. So, you know, if I just play indies, you know, an alternative, I don't financially support instead, you know, this kind of behavior. So it's basically more that rather than genre, you know, lacking, because thankfully, ever since, again, the mid-2010, we started finally, with the generations of console of PS4 and Xbox One, we start having a new influx of games of all kind. So, you know, anyway. And it's time to learn a bit about what Sigmund was telling before.
Accessing archives.
Sigmund. Just wanted to let you know I will be traveling to the Tombly outpost on Xanathar and will not be back until morning. A fellow scientist has requested an audience with me. And
Alas, that was the last he ever heard from him.
while I'm gone, wind the time cleaners and Sigmund. Let's just
I'm sorry, Clank. Your father's dead.
God, you just know that if this game was made today, they would have given him more, relevant lingo for these years.
I guess to his credit, we still use terms like BRB to
Oh
this
no,
day.
but you just know that you know what kind of terms instead they would have prioritized giving Orvus.
Lit! Skibbity! That ain't very cash money of ya.
Anyway, tune in for the next part where we resume the action with Ratchet and Azimuth and see where they go. See ya.
So yeah.
So, yeah.